The afternoon sun was slipping behind the trees when I arrived at Barbara's school, ready to take her home. I smiled as I stood outside the gate, thinking it would be another simple day, just me and my daughter riding the bus back, cooking dinner, playing a little piano together. But then everything changed in an instant. As Barbara spotted me and ran toward me, a man's voice suddenly echoed behind her. "I'm here to pick you up. Let's head home." The sound of that voice froze me. It had been 9 long years since I last heard it. 9 years since James, my husband, the man I once trusted more than anyone, left me for his mistress, cutting every tie with me and our little girl. He disappeared so completely that it felt like he had erased us from his life. And yet, here
he was, standing in front of us again as if he had never vanished.
Barbara blinked up at him, her face full of innocent confusion. "Who's this old man?" she asked loudly. James went pale, stunned by her words, but that was only the beginning. More shocks were waiting, shocks he clearly never imagined. "My name is Linda Johnson. I'm just a simple housewife who gives piano lessons from home. My life used to be calm and steady. And years ago I fell deeply in love with James, who worked as an elementary school teacher. We met through a mutual friend during a small get-together. His gentle smile and honest personality pulled me in right away. He treated me with care, spoke sincerely, and seemed like the kind of man anyone could trust. I confessed my feelings first, and James reacted like I'd handed him the world. From early in our relationship, he talked as if marriage was already decided. "You're the only woman who would ever marry me," he'd say dramatically. At first, I thought he was just sweet-talking, trying to sound romantic. Every single day he would jokingly propose, and I would laugh it off, thinking marriage was still far off. But on my 25th birthday, he looked me in the eyes and said it seriously.
He held out a small box with a ring inside and said, "Linda, let's get married."
We had only been dating for 6 months. I was surprised, even overwhelmed. But when James wanted something, he pushed for it with all his might, and I was young. Too young to see the cracks beneath the charm. I accepted his proposal because a part of me longed for a married life, the kind I saw in stories. My parents, however, were strongly against the wedding. They worked overseas and rarely came back to the US, so they worried that things were moving too fast. But James wouldn't give up. He visited them again and again, explaining his plans for our future, showing them the savings he had carefully built up since his school days, presenting detailed budgets for our life together. In the end, my parents couldn't find a single solid reason to deny him. "If you've prepared this much, then please take care of our daughter. She is our treasure," my father finally said. And with that we got married. I believed I was about to step into a peaceful, loving future, but life proved me wrong quickly. Once we moved in together, I discovered James had a very old-fashioned, almost outdated attitude about household roles. He believed men should earn money and relax at home, while women should handle everything else. He wouldn't lift a finger to help, even when I was exhausted. I tried to stay calm and asked him gently one evening before dinner, "James, I'm working too, and things get busy. Can you please help a little, at least with your own things?" But instead of listening, James exploded. "What? You just teach piano for a few hours and call that work? You barely contribute financially, and now you want me to do housework? Don't be ridiculous. I work all day, even coach after-school clubs that don't pay a dime. I come home drained. The house is your job because you bring in less money. Don't act so high and mighty." His words cut through me like ice. During our dating days, he never spoke like that. Hearing him talk down to me so harshly made me feel small. Invisible even. From that day, the verbal attacks continued. Every little thing became my fault. Every day I was scolded for reasons that made no sense. Then, during this painful time, I found out I was pregnant. I hesitated, unsure if I could raise a child with a man who treated me so coldly. But when I told James, his reaction was frightening. "You better have the baby. My parents are waiting for a grandchild. If you don't, there will be consequences." His threat chilled me. I realized I couldn't depend on him at all, but I wanted this baby. I hoped that becoming a mother would give me strength, a new purpose. So I decided to keep the pregnancy, but morning sickness hit me harder than I expected. Some days I couldn't stand without feeling faint. Yet James refused to help with anything. Even when I begged him to pick up food on days I couldn't walk far, he snapped. You can at least go to the convenience store for a sandwich, can't you? When I mentioned taking maternity leave from my piano job, he accused me of being lazy and ruining our finances. I often ask myself, can I really raise a child with this man? But the answer arrived soon enough. Our daughter Barbara was born safely, my beautiful, bright little girl. She brought light into my life in ways nothing else could. Unlike James, she adored me, always smiling, always clinging to me. She helped me survive the hard days, but right before Barbara's 5th birthday, something terrifying happened. One morning she woke up tired, warm, and weak. Mama, I don't feel good, she whispered. Then her arms and legs began to tingle, almost numb. I panicked. This wasn't a normal cold. I rushed her to the hospital by ambulance. There, the doctors told me the heartbreaking news. Barbara had infantile paralysis polio, and it was serious. She might have long-lasting effects. There was no specific cure. Hearing that, my knees nearly gave out. I begged the doctor, please, please save my child. But all they could do was offer treatments to ease the symptoms. I had to tell James, hoping that, at the very least, he'd care about his own daughter. But the moment I shared the diagnosis, he erupted into rage. Barbara's sick because you never looked after her properly. Don't blame me for your failures. His anger was unbelievable. He blamed me again and again, even though the polio vaccine wasn't widely available in the U.S. at the time, and there was no sure way to prevent it. But he needed someone to blame, and he chose me. What are you going to do if she ends up disabled? He shouted. You'll take full responsibility, right? I won't carry your mistakes. Those cruel words finally broke something inside me. Why do you put everything on me? I cried. She's our child, yours too. Instead of blaming me, shouldn't we be working together? Don't you feel any responsibility? I had stayed silent for years, terrified of making things worse for Barbara. But now, with her in the hospital, my fear turned into fury. I couldn't hold back anymore, but James's reaction was even colder than before. When did you think you had the right to talk back to me? He said, staring at me with pure disdain. I didn't marry you so you could defy me. Get out. I don't need you anymore. Before I could even process his words, he forced me out of the house. Shocked, crying, and desperate, I pounded on the door, begging him to let me in. But no matter how hard I knocked, yelled, or pleaded, there was no response from James, and the midwinter air pierced my skin. Did this happen? Tears overflowed from the sheer pain, and that day I ended up returning to the hospital barefooted. I left my cell phone and wallet at home. The nurse who saw me turned pale and immediately tended to me warm blankets, a drink, and the kind words of the nurse. Tears streamed down my eyes as I felt warmth of people around me. The nurses contacted my mother and explained. Citation, Linda, my mother, who was in the UK for work, decided to come home right away. She took over dealing with James. Seeing that I was mentally exhausted, leaf into to me, you just focus on Barbara right now. She's the one fighting the hardest. Pull yourself together. She revived my soul, and it will keep up. I'm not the only one who's hurting. Barbara is still fighting to overcome the virus, holding on to Barbara's hand as she struggled. She squeezed back weakly. I'm going to fight on. Even without words, it felt like Barbara wasteling me, that it made me realize I can't give up either. However, due to Barbara's severe polio, she had paralysis affecting her left lower half. She could move, but not freely at her own will. It's almost like she's numb, but her fever subsided and she could talk properly. Barbara smiled as if to say she was okay. Whoa, cares about one left leg. This is nothing. Thanks to you for bringing me to the hospital so soon. Heck, I'll even under rehab to make this leg move. More so, Mom, please don't blame yourself anymore because of me. Barbara, now regaining her strength, seemed to have realized there were times when I secretly left the room to cry, and I constantly blamed myself, thinking it's all my fault. I was comforted, as if she could see right through me. Hey Mom, where's Dad? He hasn't visited once. Is he busy the moment Barbara mentioned her father, my heart sank. Barbara, can you listen calmly? I hesitated to tell their covering Barbara the truth. However, I didn't want to hide anything from her. Itch has to face a painful reality, so maybe I might as well tell her now. Gathering my thoughts, I told Barbara the painful truth. A divorce. Turns out James had left Barbara and me to run off with his lover when my mother Went to James' house, everything was gone except for my belongings. The only thing left unreadable was a letter written about a divorce, and there was no trace of him other than that when my mother tried calling James on the cell she'd given me. He coldly said, "Why would I care for as a kid? I'm done with you. It's over between us." And with that he hung up. Later on, when my mother visited his parents' house, they told her about James' current situation. Apparently James had been seeing another woman for a while and she got pregnant, thinking of marrying her out of responsibility. His parents apologized over and over, saying, "We're truly sorry for our foolish son." My mother talked to me about this, suggesting if you want to go to mediation and ask for child support. Emil and James's parents also agreed on this. However, I didn't want that. While I can't deny that I'm boiling with anger about everything, my mind is preoccupied with Barbara. I don't have the time to deal with such a deadbeat guy. I conveyed me thoughts to my mother, who, though frustrated, respected my decision. So dedicated upon hearing the story, Barbara wasn't shocked. Instead, she thoughtfully uttered the word cheated, thinking it might have upset her. I hurriedly looked into her face, and out of nowhere she showed a chillingly bright smile. "In that case, Mom, I have a favor to ask." I was completely taken aback, feeling both scared and surprised by the situation. Listening to Barbara's words shared something shocking. 9 years later, Barbara entered 8th grade. She made a remarkable recovery, and after graduating from a special education school, started attending a public middle school. I opened my piano studio on Myeon, and now I make a living out of it. Since then, we faced countless challenges, but Barbara has been resilient, and I often find myself leaning on her for support. Just as I thought our smooth sailing days would continue, I spotted a stranger standing in front of our house that day. Barbara and I were out shopping, and she was right beside me when I noticed the man, wondering who he could. We approached him only to recognize him, and both of us wore expressions of shock. "I'm here to pick you up. Let's go home with Dad." To our surprise, it was James, the man who had abandoned us all those years ago, waiting for our ride. And why was James at our home? More importantly, how dare he show up now after all this time? My anger and hatred surged. Instantly ignoring my evident discomfort, James tried to approach Barbara. "Don't you dare get close to her, whoa. Do you think you are acting like you're her dad now? What happened to your affair? Aren't you happy with your new family? Don't touch her with those filthy hands." Although Barbara has recovered, her left leg doesn't fully move. If James were to grab her now, she wouldn't be able to get away. Determined to protect her, I stood in front of James, not hesitating to confront him with biting words. "I don't need you. I came to see my daughter. Get out of my way." As he tried to forcibly move me aside, Barbara pulled me hand and with a bright smile delivered a shocking statement to James. "Who's this guy? A friend of yours? Mom looks dirty and creepy. I wish he'd leave our house right now." Stunned by Barbara's words, James was left speechless. "It seems like you're referring to me as your daughter, but my only parent is my mom. I was told my dad passed away when I was young. I don't know you, though I never told Barbara that her father had died, and I quickly realized she was improvising on the spot. I was amazed by her quick thinking. Warp didn't stop there. "Is it okay if I call cops on the stranger? Or should I'll hey someone help this weird guy is trying to kidnap me?" Barbara didn't hesitate to raise her voice right in the middle of the street. Seeing this, James panicked and tried to silence her, but I firmly stood my ground. Hearing that commotion, our neighbors came out to see what was happening. "Are you okay, Barbara? You really some kind of creep. If you lay a hand on our Barbara, you're going to regret it. No, you got it all wrong. I'm her father. You're my father. Didn't make me laugh." Upon hearing the claim of being her father, Barbara's cheerful expression vanished, and she glared coldly at James. "I don't have a father, and the only reason you're trying to contact me now is probably because of money. Right? Ever since I became a singer-songwriter and started earning." Hearing her words, James was taken aback and seemed lost for words. After that incident, Barbara asked me if she could start taking piano lessons. Dad always told me to focus on my studies and not waste time on things like games, TV, or other hobbies. I should only study, hardhead say. I later discovered that James had been pushing Barbara to excel academically, always trying to make her the best. Because of this, Barbara would secretly write letters to her friends and refrain from visiting them to avoid getting caught. "If your mom finds out, she'll spoil you, so let's keep this a secret just between the two of us." I remember him saying, looking back, "It's so creepy. It's not right for a real parent to take away a child's freedom." I finally understood when I saw Barbara laughing mockingly. She hated her father more than he did for robbing her of her life. That's why she said those words to me back then. I love the way our mom plays the piano when I grow up. I want to have a job related to the piano too. I'm going to show everyone how wonderful the piano is. At the time, I didn't really get what she was talking about. But now I realized she was determined to prove James, who always mocked the piano, wrong. I realized for the first time that her words back then were filled with such ambition. Arbar was born with perfect pitch and had an extraordinary memory. Once she heard or saw something, she could remember it like a machine. Not only did she quickly memorize sheet music, but her piano skills also improved incredibly fast. On her own accord, she started voice training. Unsatisfied with just the piano, she began exploring various other instruments. On her days off, she performed with a guitar in front of the local train station and applied to numerous talent agency auditions. She used her challenges to her advantage, turning them into positive attributes. Because of her beautiful voice and talent, she started getting offers from TV shows at the young age of 14. Now she tours all across the US as a singer-songwriter. You must be kidding. I came here purely to see you. Then why did y'all abandon us back then? As the crowd began to gather around us, I loudly recounted all of James's misdeeds for everyone to hear. When Barbara got sick, you abandoned us because your mistress was pregnant, didn't it? You, when things didn't go your way, you'd shout and throw things around Haven. You always been the worst kind of person, and now you come here claiming to be a father. Give need a break, Barbarian. I have long since erased the memory of ever having a father. Hearing these shocking revelations, the neighbors were disgusted with James, and they stood beamed. This is the town where Linda grew up, a place known for its strong sense of community and loyalty. Everyone here has treated Barbara as if she was their own child, helping raise her. To them, it felt like their child was being insulted. The crowd began shouting insults at James. I don't have a father. Why I ever go back to a scumbag like you? I'm going to live my life with my mom and friends. Never come back here, you womanizing piece of trash. With that, Barbara threw her bag and jacket to the ground, signaling for the crowd to chase James away. The neighbor shouted at James to get away from Barbara as he desperately clung to my feet. Belinda, please help me. I admit I was wrong. From now on, I'll cherish you and Barbara. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Please, I'm begging you, forgive me. James was on his knees begging and rubbing his forehead against the ground, but looking at him, I felt nothing but disgust. After everything he'd done, this man believeth that a simple apology would absolve him. I wanted to show him that life isn't that easy, so I bent down, put on a wide smile, and motioned for him to lift his head. Look up, James. Linda, please forgive him, thinking he'd be forgiven. James looked up only to be met with my eerily cheerful smile, leaving him speechless. He seemed to realize the end was near. Standing on the brink of despair, James walked away from us. In the days that followed, the neighbors were relieved that nothing bad happened to Barbara, and some of them, aware of our painful past, even shed tears of sympathy. We'll here for Barbara from now on as her dad or big brother or whatever. You're a bit too old to be called a big brother, and you got that right. Everyone allotted off in a cheerful mood, and before we knew it, the atmosphere lighted and Barbara's smile returned dapperantly. The reason James visited us that day was because Barbara was featured on a TV music show, and he happened to see me there. He was able to find our house, since our home also functioned as a classroom. A bit often easily revealed our location. Word has his current wife is quite spendthrift, and his paycheck alone couldn't keep them afloat, so he came a crying to us for help. Some folks just never changed. Day, it's good we tossed time out when we did. Mom, maybe I should read a new song titled Trash and vent about all our past grievances, jokingly said my daughter, as scary as it was hearing those words from her. Seeing Barbara enjoy life despite our hardships made me feel a bit glorious.